Commander Vox Tharr of the Zintari Imperial Fleet leaned back in his command chair, mandibles clicking with anticipation. His gleaming exoskeleton reflected the soft blue glow of the tactical displays surrounding him on the bridge of the dreadnought Inevitable Conquest. "Target acquired, Commander," announced Lieutenant Grax, his voice buzzing with excitement. "Sensors confirm it's the human outpost on Epsilon 9. Population approximately 4,000. Minimal defenses detected." Vox Tharr's compound eyes glittered. 4,000 humans? That's barely a snack for our forces, and this is supposed to be one of their colonies. "Their weakest one, sir," confirmed Grax, "established only 6 standard cycles ago. Our intelligence suggests they're primarily researchers and miners, very little military presence." "Perfect." Vox Tharr straightened his torso segments and addressed the bridge crew. "The Supreme Hive has ordered us to test human defenses before the main invasion fleet arrives. This pathetic little colony will serve as an excellent demonstration of Zintari superiority." His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Plex, approached with a data tablet. "Sir, perhaps we should exercise caution. The humans have surprised other species before." Vox Tharr laughed. "A sound like stones in a garbage disposal. Surprised primitives and weaklings, perhaps. The mighty Zintari Empire has conquered 17 star systems. What could these soft-skinned mammals possibly do against our warships?" "As you say, Commander." Plex retreated, antennae drooping slightly. "Prepare the invasion force," Vox Tharr ordered. "I want 300 ground troops deployed, and that should be excessive for such a small target." "Sir," protested Captain Zern from the tactical station, "standard protocol for unknown species suggests at least 1,000 troops for initial." "Did I ask for your opinion, Captain?" Vox Tharr interrupted, mandibles snapping. 300 warriors will crush this colony so quickly the humans won't even have time to send a distress signal. We need to conserve our forces for worthy opponents." "Yes, Commander," Zern replied. "Punching in commands, launch in 10 minutes, Vox Tharr announced. "I expect this operation to be completed within 3 hours. Then we can report to the Supreme Hive that humans are exactly what we thought: weak, primitive, and utterly defenseless. Down on Epsilon 9. Dr. Evelyn Porter looked up from her geological survey data when the alarm began to sound. "That's not the dinner bell," she muttered, pushing a strand of copper-red hair behind her ear. Her assistant, Takumi Watanabe, burst into the lab, his normally calm demeanor shattered. "Evie, we've got incoming. Multiple ships just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system." "Pirates again?" Evelyn sighed, saving her work. "Those Orion Syndicate jerks are getting persistent. Not pirates." Takumi shook his head frantically. "The silhouettes match nothing in our database. They're big, Evie. Really big." Before she could respond, the colony-wide communication system crackled to life. "Attention all personnel. This is Director Marcus Jackson. We have confirmed first contact with an unknown alien species. Their approach vectors and formation suggest hostile intent. This is not a drill. All civilians report to designated shelters. All GDF personnel report to defense stations. Protocol Thunderbolt is now in effect." Evelyn and Takumi exchanged glances. "Identie." "Thunderbolt," Takumi whispered. "That's the 'we're about to be attacked' protocol, right?" "Yeah," Evelyn nodded, suddenly serious. "Never thought we'd actually need it." "Come on. Let's get to the shelter." As they hurried through the colony's main corridor, they passed members of the Global Defense Force rushing in the opposite direction. Despite being Earth's weakest and newest colony, Epsilon 9 still maintained a small GDF contingent, about 40 soldiers total, that were responsible for security and occasional pirate deterrence. One of them, Lieutenant Derek Sawyer, nodded grimly as he passed. "Get underground docks. This might get messy." Evelyn grabbed his arm. "Derek, what are we dealing with?" The lieutenant paused briefly. "Something new. Big ships. Lots of them. They're launching what look like troop carriers. We're outnumbered, probably outgunned. So we're evacuating?" Takumi asked hopefully. Lieutenant Sawyer's laugh held no humor. "With what ships? Our supply vessel isn't due for another month. No, we're implementing Protocol Thunderbolt and hoping headquarters responds to our distress signal in time. And if they don't, Evelyn pressed. Derek's face hardened. Then we make these aliens regret ever finding us. Now move. Both of you. Shelter. That's an order. Vox Tharr watched with satisfaction as the troop carriers descended toward the human colony. The pitiful settlement was nestled between two mountain ranges on the otherwise barren moon. His tactical display showed the human structures, primitive, boxy buildings connected by tubes and surrounded by a simple perimeter fence. This will be glorious, he chittered. Begin recording. The Supreme Hive will want documentation of our first victory against the humans. Commander, interrupted the sensor officer. I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the human colony. Weapons charging? Vox Tharr asked, suddenly alert. Uncertain, sir. The signature doesn't match any known weapons system. It's more like a communications array powering up, but with significantly more energy than should be necessary. Vox Tharr dismissed the concern with a wave of his upper limb. They're probably sending a desperate plea for help. It will arrive far too late. Dropships entering atmosphere now, reported Lieutenant Grax. Estimated time to touchdown, 3 minutes. Inside the colony's command center, Director Marcus Jackson stood surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching alien vessels. At 58, with salt and pepper hair and deep lines etched into his dark skin, Jackson had spent most of his career behind a desk at GDF headquarters on Earth. Taking the director position on Epsilon 9 was supposed to be an easy final posting before retirement. So much for that plan. Status of Thunderbolt? He asked, voice steady despite the chaos around him. Major Sophia Diaz, the colony's ranking military officer, looked up from her console. Guardian system online and awaiting authorization. All civilians are nearly at shelters, GDF personnel in defensive positions. And our guests? 300 hostiles, based on dropship capacity, Sophia replied. They'll land just outside our perimeter in approximately 2 minutes. Jackson nodded slowly. Any response to our hail? Negative, sir. They're ignoring all attempts at communication. Then they've made their intentions clear. Jackson squared his shoulders. Major Diaz, you have my authorization to activate Guardian, full defensive protocol. Yes, sir. Sophia's fingers flew over her console, entering a complex sequence of commands. A computerized voice responded immediately. Guardian defense system activated. Analyzing threat parameters around the perimeter of the colony. What had appeared to be ordinary lighting fixtures, communications antennae, and environmental sensors began to transform. Panels slid open, revealing sophisticated weapons systems that had been hidden in plain sight. Remind me, Jackson said quietly to Sophia, how much did Earth spend on our little research outpost? Major Diaz allowed herself a small smile. Its official budget was $2.3 billion for scientific facilities and basic security. Unofficial additions from the GDF black budget, approximately $50 billion, and they called us the weakest colony. Jackson shook his head. Let's show our visitors what weak looks like. Vox Tharr was growing impatient. Why haven't the dropships landed yet? They're in final approach. Commander, Grax reported. 30 seconds to touchdown. Suddenly, the tactical officer shouted, energy spike. Massive energy spike from the colony. What? Vox Tharr leapt to his feet. Show me. The main view screen shifted to show the human colony from the perspective of the lead dropship. To Vox Tharr's shock, the seemingly primitive settlement was transforming before his eyes. Weapons platforms emerged from hidden compartments all around the perimeter. What had appeared to be simple communications towers split open to reveal massive energy cannons. Evasive action. Vox Tharr screamed, order the dropships to abort landing. Too late, sir. Grax responded, antennae quivering in fear. On the screen, beams of searing blue light lanced upward from the colony. The lead dropship disintegrated instantly. The second and third followed moments later, vaporized mid-descent. Impossible. Vox Tharr hissed. How could they hide such weapons, sir? The communications officer's voice was almost a shriek. We're being hailed. by the humans. Put it through, Vox Tharr ordered, mandibles clenched in rage. The view screen changed to show a dark-skinned human male with graying hair. The creature's face showed no fear, only stern determination. Attention alien vessels. This is Director Marcus Jackson of the Earth Colony Epsilon 9. You have committed an act of war against humanity by launching an unprovoked attack on our settlement. Your ground forces have been neutralized. You have 5 minutes to withdraw from this system, or we will be forced to take further defensive action. Vox Tharr's rage overwhelmed his caution. You dare threaten the might of the Zintari Empire? Your pathetic colony will be reduced to atoms. All ships, target the human settlement. Full barrage. Back in the colony command center, Jackson watched as the alien commander responded to his ultimatum with what appeared to be furious chittering and mandible clicking. Translation? He asked. Working on it, replied Lieutenant Amara Okafor at the communication station. Based on linguistic patterns, it seems they're called the Zintari, and that one is threatening to destroy us completely. How original, Jackson sighed. Major Diaz, are they moving their capital ships into attack position? Yes, sir. 5 vessels approaching optimal weapons range, Jackson nodded grimly. They had their chance. Guardian. Execute Defense Protocol Theta. Executing Defense Protocol Theta, the system responded. Target acquisition complete. Firing sequence initiated. Board the inevitable conquest. Vox Tharr watched with savage anticipation as his 5 warships moved into firing position around the human colony. Weapons charged, Commander, reported Captain Zern, awaiting your order to fire. Obliterate them, Vox Tharr commanded, leave nothing but. Might, Commander. The sensor officer interrupted, panic evident in his voice. The multiple energy signatures detected beneath the surface of the moon. There. The rest of his warning was cut off as the view screen showed a blinding flash from the surface. Not from the colony itself, but from the barren plains surrounding it. Dozens of hidden silos had opened in the moon's crust, each launching a salvo of missiles that streaked toward the Zintari ships. Interceptors. Vox Tharr screamed. Launch all interceptors. The Zintari defense systems activated, destroying many of the incoming projectiles. But there were too many. And these weren't simple missiles, they were drone weapons, each adjusting its course to avoid defensive fire. The first wave struck the smallest Zintari vessel, bypassing its shields through sheer numbers. The ship's hull breached in multiple locations before its reactor went critical, transforming the proud warship into an expanding ball of plasma. Retreat. Vox Tharr ordered. His earlier bravado evaporated. All ships. Emergency FTL jump, but the human weapons were relentless. A second Zintari ship succumbed, then a third. The remaining 2, including the inevitable conquest, desperately tried to clear the gravity well to make the jump to FTL. FTL drives charging. Lieutenant Grax reported, 30 seconds to jump capability. We won't last 30 seconds. Sub-Commander Plex shouted as the ship rocked from another impact. Vox Tharr stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His mighty task force, reduced to 2 damaged ships in a matter of minutes, hit by a colony they had dismissed as weak and defenseless. How? He whispered. How could they hide such power? The human appeared on the view screen again. Attention Zintari vessels. Your attack has been neutralized. 3 of your ships have been destroyed. The remaining 2 are critically damaged. This is your final warning. Leave now or be destroyed. Pride and rage warred within Vox Tharr's thorax. To flee would be humiliating. To stay would be suicide, Commander. Sub-Commander Plex urged. We must report this to the Supreme Hive. The humans, they're not what we thought. Slowly, Vox Tharr nodded. Set course for Zintari space, maximum speed. As the 2 damaged ships limped away from Epsilon 9, Vox Tharr stared at the small human colony on his view screen. It looked so insignificant, so vulnerable, and yet, if this is their weakest colony, he chittered quietly, what terrors await at their strongest? In the command center of Epsilon 9, Director Jackson watched the alien ships retreat. They're leaving the system, sir, Major Diaz confirmed. Guardian tracking shows them on a vector away from Earth-controlled space. Stand down to alert level 3. Jackson ordered, and get me a damage assessment. Ready complete, sir. Sophia replied with a slight smile. We lost 3 perimeter sensors and 1 communication relay. No casualties. Jackson checked his watch and raised an eyebrow. 7 minutes from first shot fired to enemy retreat. Not bad for Earth's weakest colony, wouldn't you say? Major Diaz's smile widened. Almost disappointing, sir. We didn't even get to show them the fun stuff. Let's hope we never have to, Jackson said, his expression growing serious. Send a full report to Earth. Include all sensor data on the Zintari ships and weapons. Yes, sir. And, sir. The 2 survivors will talk. Jackson nodded slowly. That's the idea, Major. That's precisely the idea. Sometimes the best defense isn't a secret weapon. It's making sure everyone knows you have it. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Jackson allowed himself a tired smile. Somewhere out there, a Zintari commander was racing home with tales of the terrifying defenses at humanity's weakest outpost. By tomorrow, every intelligence service in the galaxy would be buzzing with speculation about what might be waiting at Earth itself. Sometimes, perception was the most powerful weapon of all. The Zintari Hive Palace hummed with agitation. News of the disaster at Epsilon 9 had spread quickly through the collective mind network, causing ripples of disbelief and outrage throughout the 17 conquered star systems of the Empire. Supreme Overlord Kaz-Kothar, whose massive form dominated the throne chamber, tapped his primary claw impatiently against the armrest of his ornate seat. His carapace, adorned with the battle scars of 100 conquests, gleamed under the bioluminescent light. Bring in the failure, he rumbled, voice echoing through the chamber. The great doors parted, and Commander Vox Tharr was escorted in by 4 royal guards. His once proud exoskeleton was dulled, and one of his antennae hung at an awkward angle, damage sustained during the retreat from the human colony. Approach, Kaz-Kothar ordered. Vox Tharr moved forward on unsteady limbs, stopping at the prescribed distance from the throne. He lowered his head in submission. Supreme Overlord, I have failed the Empire. I accept whatever punishment you deem appropriate. Punishment? Kaz-Kothar's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Zintari equivalent of a humorless laugh. Do you think this is about punishment, Commander? This is about understanding. You will tell me everything about these humans, every detail. Everything you saw. Vox Tharr's compound eyes widened slightly in surprise. Yes, Supreme Overlord. Where should I begin? With their weapons, Grand General Crack Vaser interjected, stepping forward from his position beside the throne. How did a small colony possess firepower capable of destroying 3 of our warships? That's what makes no sense, General, Vox Tharr replied, gaining confidence as he spoke about tactical matters. According to our intelligence, Epsilon 9 was their newest, smallest colony. Primarily a research outpost with minimal defenses, but what we found was, he paused, searching for words. A trap, a perfect trap. Explain, demanded Kaz-Kothar. The colony appeared defenseless. Simple structures, basic perimeter. No visible weapons, but when we attacked, everything changed. Hidden weapon systems emerged from all over the colony and the surrounding terrain. Their defensive capabilities were far beyond what any outpost should possess. It was as if as if what? Crack Vaser pressed, as if they wanted to be attacked. Vox Tharr finished, as if they were baiting someone to strike first. A heavy silence fell over the throne room. Show us, Kaz-Kothar finally ordered. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber. The recording from the inevitable conquest played out for all to see. The approach, the dropships launching, the sudden transformation of the colony, and the devastating counterattack that had crippled the Zintari fleet. 7 minutes. Grand General Crack Vaser murmured when the recording ended. From first engagement to retreat. 7 minutes, and this is their weakest colony. Kaz-Kothar's voice was dangerously soft. According to all our intelligence, yes, Vox Tharr confirmed. Supreme Overlord, I believe the humans wanted us to attack this specific colony. Why? To send a message. To demonstrate their power without revealing their true capabilities, the Supreme Overlord's massive form shifted as he leaned forward. You believe this was a warning? I do. Vox Tharr nodded. And I believe attacking any human settlement would be catastrophic for the Empire. Vox Tharr's upper limbs twitched, a sign of deep thought among the Zintari. Finally, he spoke again. Commander Vox Tharr, you will lead a diplomatic mission to the humans, make contact. Learn more about them, determine if they are a threat to the Empire or a potential ally. Vox Tharr's mandibles dropped open in shock. Me? But Supreme Overlord, I failed. You survived. Vox Tharr interrupted. You experienced their power firsthand and lived to report it. That makes you uniquely qualified. His voice hardened. Do not fail me again. Yes, Supreme Overlord. Vox Tharr bowed deeply. When do I depart? Immediately. We cannot allow other species to approach the humans before we do. The political landscape of the galaxy is about to change, Commander. The Zintari Empire must be at the forefront of that change. 6 weeks later, on Earth, the Planetary Defense Council convened in their underground chamber beneath Geneva. The circular room buzzed with conversation as military leaders, politicians, and scientists from around the world took their seats. Admiral Leona Reyes, chair of the council, called the meeting to order. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to discuss the Epsilon 9 incident and its aftermath. Director Jackson, please begin your report. Marcus Jackson stood, looking considerably more rested than he had during the attack. Thank you, Admiral. As you all know, 6 weeks ago, our colony on Epsilon 9 was attacked by a previously unknown species calling themselves the Zintari. Using the Guardian defense system, we neutralized their ground forces and destroyed 3 of their warships, forcing their retreat. Total engagement time was 7 minutes. Impressive results for our weakest colony, remarked General Hiroshi Tanaka with a slight smile. That was the point. General, Jackson nodded. Operation Glass Jaw worked exactly as designed. We created a seemingly vulnerable target, equipped it with disproportionate defensive capabilities, and waited for someone to take the bait, and the Zintari obliged. Admiral Reyes added, Continue, Director. Since the incident, our intelligence networks have detected significant changes in Zintari activity. They've withdrawn from 3 contested border systems, recalled several invasion fleets, and appear to be consolidating their forces. Most importantly, they've sent out communications to their 17 subject worlds, altering their stance on several key policies. Dr. Elena Mikhailova, the Council's xenoanthropologist, leaned forward. What kind of alterations? Reduced tribute demands, loosened restrictions on local governance, that sort of thing. Jackson replied, It seems they're preparing for a potential conflict by shoring up internal support. Or, Dr. Mikhailova suggested, they're genuinely reconsidering their imperial approach after witnessing a superior force. That brings us to the most recent development, Jackson continued. 18 hours ago, a single Zintari vessel appeared at the edge of the Sol system. It's transmitting on all frequencies, requesting permission to enter Earth space for diplomatic talks. A murmur ran through the chamber. Hey Shanks, Mumat, and the vessel's commander? Admiral Reyes asked. Identified as Vox Tharr. Jackson confirmed, the same commander who led the attack on Epsilon 9. Well. General Tanaka chuckled. Someone learned their lesson. Perhaps, Admiral Reyes cautioned. Or perhaps this is reconnaissance for a larger attack. What's your assessment, Director? Jackson paused, weighing his words carefully. Based on intercepts of their internal communications, I believe this is a genuine diplomatic overture. The Zintari Supreme Overlord, their equivalent of an emperor, personally ordered Vox Tharr to establish relations with humanity, sending the commander who failed against us, Dr. Mikhailova noted. Interesting cultural choice. In their society, it likely represents both punishment and opportunity for redemption. Then what do we know about these Zintari? Asked Counselor Amara Osei, one of the civilian representatives. Dr. Mikhailova activated a holographic display showing detailed images of the insectoid aliens. The Zintari are a hive-based species with a strict hierarchical structure, highly intelligent, technologically advanced, and expansionist. Prior to encountering us, they'd conquered 17 star systems over approximately 300 Earth years, and now they want to talk. Counselor Osei mused, because we bloodied their nose. Precisely, Jackson nodded. Operation Glassjaw was designed to establish humanity as a power to be respected without revealing our full capabilities. By making our weakest colony formidable, we've created uncertainty about our true strength. Admiral Reyes stood, addressing the council. The question before us is simple. Do we engage diplomatically with the Zintari, or do we send them packing with another demonstration of force? General Tanaka snorted. I say we show them exactly what happens when you attack human settlements. With respect, General, Dr. Mikhailova countered. That would be short-sighted. The Zintari command 17 systems. If we can turn them into allies rather than enemies, that expands human influence considerably. Not to mention, added Jackson, that refusing diplomatic contact might unite other species against us. We don't want to be seen as the aggressive newcomers. The debate continued for hours, with passionate arguments from both the military and diplomatic factions. Finally, Admiral Reyes called for a vote. The decision is made, she announced after tallying the results. We will receive the Zintari diplomatic mission. Director Jackson, since you've had the most direct experience with them, you'll lead our negotiating team. Jackson looked surprised. Admiral, I'm a colonial administrator, not a diplomat. You're the human who defeated them in 7 minutes. Admiral Reyes smiled thinly. That makes you the perfect diplomat for this situation. 3 days later, Commander Vox Tharr stepped cautiously from his shuttle onto Earth's soil. The landing pad had been prepared at a neutral site in the Swiss Alps, with spectacular mountain vistas surrounding the small diplomatic compound. A delegation of humans waited to receive him. To Vox Tharr's surprise, he recognized the leader, the same dark-skinned male who had appeared on his view screen during the battle. Director Jackson, Vox Tharr greeted him, speaking through a translation device. We meet in person at last. Commander Tharr. Jackson replied evenly. Welcome to Earth. Dacian, you remember me. Vox Tharr's mandibles clicked in what the humans would learn was a sign of respect. Hard to forget someone who tries to annihilate your colony, Jackson said with a wry smile. But I understand you come with different intentions today. Indeed. Vox Tharr performed a formal Zintari greeting gesture. The supreme overlord of the Zintari Empire extends his greetings to the leaders of humanity and proposes an alliance between our peoples. Jackson raised an eyebrow. An alliance? Just weeks ago you were trying to conquer us. A misunderstanding. Vox Tharr replied smoothly. We were merely testing your defenses. And how did you find them? Impressive, Vox Tharr admitted. Most impressive, particularly for your weakest colony. Was that a note of humor in the alien's translated voice? Jackson thought he detected something like grudging admiration. Perhaps, Jackson suggested, we should continue this conversation inside. There's much to discuss about this proposed alliance. As they walked toward the compound, Vox Tharr glanced at the human. Your leaders chose you to represent Earth. Midden, why? Jackson smiled. They thought you might respond better to a familiar face, the face of defeat. Vox Tharr noted. It's an interesting psychological tactic. Is it working? The alien commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. Yes. It reminds me that underestimating humans is unwise. He paused before adding, you know, in my culture, to be defeated so thoroughly and yet offered diplomatic engagement is a great honor. In ours too, sometimes, Jackson replied, though we call it turning an enemy into a friend, a strange concept, Vox Tharr said. But intriguing. As they entered the compound, Jackson couldn't help asking the question that had been bothering him since the attack. Commander, why did you choose Epsilon 9? Of all our colonies, why that one? Vox Tharr's compound eyes studied Jackson carefully before he answered. Because your own communications designated it as your weakest outpost. We thought it would be simple. Jackson laughed. Nothing about humanity is simple, Commander. That's the first lesson of diplomacy with us, so I'm learning. Vox Tharr replied. Tell me, Director Jackson, was Epsilon 9 truly your weakest colony, or was it a trap? Let's just say, Jackson smiled enigmatically, that humanity believes in being prepared. For a species that believes in preparation, Vox Tharr observed, you revealed considerable defensive capabilities. Many would have kept such advantages secret. Jackson's expression grew serious. Sometimes the best way to avoid a war is to make sure everyone knows exactly how costly it would be to start one. 7 minutes. Vox Tharr said quietly. That is how long it took your weakest colony to defeat our attack force. The Supreme Overlord has asked me to inquire. How long would it take your strongest? Let's hope neither of us ever has to find out, Jackson replied. 1 year later, Epsilon 9 had changed dramatically. What had once been a small research outpost was now a thriving hub of interspecies commerce and diplomacy. The colony had tripled in size, with new structures accommodating both human and Zintari inhabitants. Director Jackson, now appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the Zintari Empire, stood at the viewport in his office, watching as a Zintari trading vessel docked alongside human ships. The door chimed, and Ambassador Vox Tharr entered, his new title a result of the historic treaty signed 6 months earlier. The cultural exchange delegation has arrived, Vox Tharr announced. 12 of our brightest young scholars, ready to learn about humanity, and 12 of ours preparing to study the Zintari. Jackson nodded. Who would have thought we'd come so far in a year? From battlefield to partnership in 12 Earth months. Vox Tharr agreed. My people are still adjusting to the concept of alliance rather than conquest. It is refreshing. Jackson turned to face the alien who had become, improbably, something like a friend. The Supreme Overlord's reforms across your 17 subject worlds are progressing well, I hear. The Treaty of Epsilon requires it, Vox Tharr noted, though many in the Empire had already begun to question our expansionist policies. Your demonstration provided the leverage needed for change. 7 minutes that altered the course of 2 civilizations. Jackson mused, and perhaps many more, Vox Tharr added. Word has spread throughout the galactic community. The species once dismissed as primitive newcomers is now recognized as a power to be respected and courted as an ally. Jackson smiled. All because you chose to attack our weakest colony. Your weakest colony, Vox Tharr corrected, mandibles clicking in what Jackson now recognized as amusement. I still wonder what we would have found at your strongest. Perhaps someday we'll show you, Jackson replied. As friends, of course. Of course. Vox Tharr gestured toward the door. Shall we greet the delegates? The future awaits. As they walked through the colony that had once been a battlefield, Jackson reflected on the strange path that had led here. A 7-minute battle that had prevented a war, an apparent weakness that had revealed humanity's greatest strength, not just its technology, but its ability to turn enemies into allies. Sometimes, he thought, the weakest point could become the strongest link. All it took was 7 minutes to change everything.